One of the smart reasons you use an email service like Mailchimp is because it provides you statistical analysis that you can use strategically for your business. In this video, I'm going to show you what numbers to look at, what they mean, and how you can use them as a competitive advantage for your business to grow your revenue. If you're ready to build your business, go ahead and subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up, and hit the bell to get notified every time we publish a new video, which is every Thursday. Hi, I'm Jeannie Wilson with Six Figure Business Coaching, and today I'm going to show you how easy it is to track your progress using the statistics in Mailchimp. I'm also going to tell you a story about one of my clients who completely changed her business just by checking one statistic regularly. So today we're going to talk about stats on Mailchimp. And this really goes for any email service that you're using, but it's really important that you not only send out your emails, but that you're looking to see how effective they are. And so today we're going to go over some of the things that you should be looking at. And the most important things are your open rates, your click-through rates, your unsubscribes, your bounces. Those are probably the four that are the most important to look at, but we're going to talk about a few others just so you can look at this more strategically. So the first place we're going to go to in Mailchimp is campaigns, and you can kind of get an overview with this particular company. You can see here a little bit of an overview on their opens and their clicks, and it's kind of nice. I think it gives you the percentage. So the open rate is the percentage of people who received your email and opened it. So fairly simple, and there is a percentage that is an average for all the different industries. So I'm going to put that link in the description so that you can look up your particular industry to see what percentage is the average for your industry, because you always want to try and shoot for something that's over the average. And that might take a little while. You might find in the beginning that you have some really high numbers, because sometimes when you first send out to people, they're like, wow, they get a little curious and they want to see what you're all about and what you've got going on. So it's natural to have kind of a spike in the beginning and then for it to kind of settle down a little bit. But you want the overall average to be beating the open rate for your industry. And you can see on this particular one, it kind of fluctuates up and down a bit. That big one right here was a thank you message for an opt-in. So that's a little bit different. That's going to be a little bit of a different number than a regular weekly email. But you can see these kind of jump up and down a little bit. And that's good information to know, because you can look at the ones that had a really high open rate, and you can kind of go back and look at what was the subject of that. You know, is that something that was really popular because it was very topical for that time of year? Or was it something that of a lot of interest to my audience? So those are the kind of things that you want to evaluate when you are looking at your numbers. Because if it was a topic that was really popular, well, you might want to post something about that again and see if it gives you another spike. So then you're kind of getting into the psyche of your, if you will, of your audience, and you're understanding a little bit more about what kind of information they want to see and they want to hear from you. So I think that's really valuable. If you like the fact that you can actually see who opened your email after you sent it to them, go ahead and post open in the comments below. The second number, now you can see it's kind of bouncy between how many people opened it, hard number, and then what percentage they are. Both are important. The second number is clicks, and it's also called a click-through rate. And that is going to be how many people, of the people who opened your email, how many of them actually clicked on a link in your email. So that's also going to be really important. It's obviously a smaller number. I think that overall average is small. It's like 1.5 or 2%.
So you can, again, you can kind of look around and see if you get, a bigger number, almost, I think one of these was almost a 3%. And you could say, wow, people not only opened the email, but they really, really enjoyed this article, or they were really interested in that product. And I'm going to tell you a little story about that in a little bit. But those are some of the things that I want you to understand. There's a section here called reports, and it's going to show the same information, but it's going to show it a little differently, a little different chart, which I kind of like. So here you go. Here is kind of an overview of all the different emails that have been sent out, and you can put your cursor over them and look at which ones they were. And up here, the orange line you can see here is the open rate. So if your open rate is 15%, you can say, excellent, most of mine are over 15%, but this one went down. These two are down a little bit. Maybe I'll look back, and actually a couple over here too. Well, maybe I'll look back and see what topics those were or what subject lines those were, because now I know those were not of particular interest to my audience. But I can also look at the ones that spiked. And you can see, maybe I want to do some more articles or some more subject lines that were more like those. Then down here at the bottom, you can see the click rate. And again, when you look at the article, you can see what was a good click rate. And I can't remember for this client, I want to say it was like 1.5%. So this one had a 3% click rate. So I might go back in that newsletter and say, hey, what was it that they clicked on? What were they so interested in? And maybe do, again, a few more articles in that way. So that's kind of the chart. And this gives you a little more information on how many subscribers did you have. You can see the subscribers, they kind of go up and down a little bit, which is interesting, because what you want to see is the subscriber numbers going up. You want to see more people subscribing to your newsletter. You want to make sure that your numbers are going up. So that might be something that you can look at a little more closely. Maybe your opt-in isn't bringing in as many people as it should. So maybe we need to look at what your opt-in is and tweak that and find something that is of more interest to people. Another way that our subscribers go down is when people unsubscribe. So if we're talking about unsubscribes, there's a couple different ways to look at it. I like to look at each email newsletter. Once I send it out, then I like to wait about a week, because you got to give people a little bit of time to look at it. Because once it hits their email, their inbox, they may not look at it right away, because they're busy. They've got other things that are more time sensitive. They may wait a day. They may be working on a big project. So I like to give them a week, because sometimes people will wait until the weekends as well to go ahead and read your email, especially if you are a business to consumer business. Sometimes people like to wait till the weekend so they can really dig in and really pay attention to what your email is all about and the information you're providing them. So give it about a week, and then put it in your calendar to check your report. So again, you're going to want to look at your opens, your clicks, and then you're going to want to look at, and we're going to look at this specific email. And this is a really nice overview, the way that they've done this. So this tells you what industry you've set it up for. It tells you a little bit about your demographics, your audience size. So this tells you your open rate, your click rate, and your unsubscribes. And it says, this is what this campaign did, 26%. This is what your campaigns overall do on an average basis. For your open rate, we've selected open rate. So this is just talking about open rate. So on average, you do about 21%. And then other people in your industry do 35%. So you might be thinking, I can do better. That's what this would tell me. You can also click on click rate. So this campaign did 2.7. The average campaign that you send out does 2.3. So this did better than your normal ones. But your peers other people in this industry do 5.3. So you're still falling behind on this one. There's still a lot of opportunity for growth. And if you click on unsubscribe, so this campaign had 0.5% of people unsubscribe, which looks like that's what is normal for you. It's also normal for other people in your industry. So this tells me that people unsubscribe, and it's not something that you should panic about. There's lots and lots of reasons. Maybe they signed up to get your special, and now they're just getting too much email in their inbox. Things aren't relative to them anymore. They changed their email address, so they signed up under a different email address, and now they're still getting things under this address. So there's lots and lots of reasons that people will unsubscribe. So it's not something to be worried about, because what you really want, you want people on your list who sincerely want your information. You want people on here who are going to open your email. You don't want them just to get it and think, nah, I don't want to, it doesn't relate to me. You want you want this list to be people who are actively engaged, who are excited, who are going to buy your products and services. So don't worry if they unsubscribe, then they're not your raving fans. They're not going to be your customers, and that's fine, because not everyone is your customer. So if we look at this again, looking at some more numbers, so we can see that we sent this out to 408 people received the email, which was 99.3%. So there are a couple people who did not get it, and we'll talk about that in a minute. 145 people successfully opened it. So what you can see in these numbers is successful deliveries is 408, which is 99.3%, which is excellent. So that means almost everyone who received this, who it was sent to, received it. And we'll talk a little bit about that. It has to do with a bounce rate, and that's up there. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. Total opens is 145. So that is different to the 106 open rate, because sometimes people will open it more than once. So maybe you sent them an article, and when they opened it, they scanned it and they said, ooh, I really like that information, or I want to read more about that, but I don't have time right now. So they closed it. And then they went back to it later on and opened it again, and when they had time to spend on it. So this open is 106 people opened it, 11 people clicked on the links, 3 of them bounced. And what happens when things bounce is sometimes it's because the email address was incorrect. So that's definitely a list that you're going to want to look at each month, because you want your bounce list to be 0 or as small as possible. I mean, 3 is very, very small, so that's good. But it's possible that you uploaded an email address, and instead of putting .com, you put .co, or instead of putting, at, Gmail, you put at, Cmail. So, make sure you have a look at the bounced, because it can be human error. It can also be that, again, the email doesn't exist anymore. So there's a few reasons for bounces, but you want your bounce rate to be really low. And then 2 people unsubscribe, which again is a low number. And we saw that that's average, that's normal. However, if this particular email had a huge unsubscribe rate, then whoa, this is definitely either not the information that my audience wants to see, or it's not going to the right people. So, these are really, really important things that you learn by going through your report that you wouldn't know otherwise. You just sent it out, pat yourself on the back because you sent out an email, and it's great that you did send it out. But again, you definitely want to make sure that you're looking at the numbers. So, and this is really interesting too. I like this graph. This is a 24-hour performance. So this shows you that in the first 24 hours when your email went out, when did people open it? So this one went out at 6. So the majority of people who opened it right away. And then it went down at 7, but it went back up at 8. So you could test when you send your email out. You might try sending it at 8. Maybe that's a better time on this particular day. And then naturally, this number is going to go down over time as things progress. Now, sometimes if it is more of a business to consumer, you may find that there's a jump, in the 8 to 9 o'clock or the 7 to 8 o'clock, because what happens is people go home in the evenings, and that's when they have time to sit down and open emails that are non-business related. So this is definitely important to see, because you may find that you can get a better performance, a better open rate by sending something at a different time or a different day of the week. So this is going to help you with the time of day. So this part of the report shows you the different parts of your email. Each one of these are the links in the email, and you can see that the first article was the one that everyone clicked on. So obviously that was the most important, and that was the one that everybody wanted to read. So that's awesome. And then you can see that there's some people here who had subscribers with the most opens. So you can see some of these people opened your email over and over and over again. And this is really, really valuable, because what it says that these people were really, really interested in this topic. So if this topic were a blog post of yours, if it were a particular service that you offer, if it were, something that related really closely to what you offer, these might be some people you could consider a warm lead. And you might want to go ahead and send an email directly to them and just say, you don't want to say, I saw that you opened my email a bunch of times, but you may want to say, if you don't know these people, you want to say, hey, you know what, we're reaching out to some of our, the people on our email list, and, we're just wondering if, we're doing something special, and we're doing some one-on-one calls to see if there's, a way that we can help you. Would you like to set up a time to talk to us? Or are there any questions that we can answer for you? Or you can, if it's a particular product, you can give them more information on it, so you could kind of capitalize or follow up a little bit with a small group of people who you can assume from this information that they might have been genuinely more interested in what you were promoting, or what you put out there in this email. So I think that's really, really valuable information. So it would be really smart to set aside some time when you do your analysis of your emails, and you go through these numbers every week, to go ahead and spend a little time, block a little bit of time off to also follow up with some of these people. And if you by chance have their phone numbers, then call them. I clicked on more information so you could see a little bit of more information on them. So it gives you some times, it gives you their name, it gives you a member rating. So you can see on this report, it gives us a little more information about each of the contacts. It gives us their email address, how many times they opened it. Looks like this gives you everybody. So I think, yeah, we can click on opens, and it will sort them. So if we click it once, it sorts them by lowest to highest. If we click it twice, it puts the people who opened it the most at the top. So again, opens. So this person opened it 5 times. So that's a lot of times for somebody to open this. So I would say they were probably very interested. So you might pick some people at the top here who opened it quite a few times. And like I said, send them something special. Now, there's something over here called a member rating. I think this is really interesting. And I'm going to put this article, a link to this in the bottom as well. This tells you a little bit about how they rate people. And so when people start out on your list, they have anywhere from a 0 to 2 stars. And so as they stay on your list, Mailchimp ranks them or gives them a rating based on their activity and their relationship to your emails. So 1 star means this person unsubscribed and resubscribed, or they bounced in the past. So they're, and I think what they're doing here is they are trying to help you figure out who might be an ideal client for you. So somebody with 5 stars, could be a really high, potential client for you. Somebody with 1 star, maybe not so much. So they're trying to help you out in figuring out who to target in the future. So 2 stars, no engagement. 3 stars, low engagement. They open or click your campaign, but not consistently. 4 stars, they often open or click your campaigns when you send them. 5 stars, this person opens or clicks your campaigns on a very consistent basis. So it's kind of nice to have that little ranking here. You can see this person always opens. So I just think that's really, valuable information to have. And if you combine that with how many times somebody opened a particular email, that might be somebody who is a really, really warm customer. So you can see how just going through these numbers can provide you a ton of information on people who are receiving your emails. So again, you can go through, this is under the campaigns tab. You can go through each one and you can see the report for each one. And then you can also go to audience and look at and click on here on view contacts. It starts out with the people who unsubscribed. So you can look through that, and that might be valuable to see if there are people on there who, are past clients or people that or people that kind of surprised you. It would be okay to give them a call and say, oh, I did see that I do get a report that tells me who unsubscribed from my email, and you did, and I just wondered why, if that surprised you. Otherwise, I wouldn't worry about that. And like I said, do not be personally offended by that. Now, if you wanted to see your contact rating, you can click on that. And like I said, it sorts them by 1 star. But if you click on it again, it'll sort them by 5 stars. Really valuable information. And if you wanted to, click on here and you can export this information so that you could have, a nice CSV file, which you can open in Excel. You could have that report. If you don't have time to follow up right now, you can follow up at a later time. You can write a new email that just goes to those people and maybe send them something special. Say, oh, this month we're offering, a special just to, our top 5, or we have 5 spaces open for this particular one-on-one service, or, we have just a few opportunities and we're just offering them to certain people who are on our list. So kind of make them feel special, because I think that's always a good way to make people feel special. Is also a great way to encourage them to buy from you. Again, there's a column here under email marketing, and that's where we saw unsubscribed, but there's also one label, I guess you could call it, called cleaned. And I think this is actually a really nice feature on Mailchimp that's not a feature on all email programs. And what it is when you send out an email and it bounces, which means you sent it out to an email address and it didn't get there. And that usually means that the email address doesn't exist anymore. So what will happen, or that it was a mistake. One of these, actually, I can see here says at, instead of yahoo.com, it says yahoo.l.com. So what happens is Mailchimp turns around and says, this didn't make it, this email doesn't exist, so we're going to clean it out. So instead of you having to go back in there and say, delete this, delete this, delete this, it just goes ahead and cleans it for you, which is great. However, you do need to go in here and check these, because sometimes it's just a mistake in the email address. And Mailchimp doesn't allow you to change the email address once it's been cleaned. However, you can go ahead and add it back in with the correct email address. So cleaned is kind of a really nice feature, although I kind of personally wish that they had indicated that these had bounced and then were cleaned, because I think it's a little confusing. that in one report it says bounced and the other report it says cleaned, but there you go. But it's a really nice thing because they're doing a step for you where a lot of services won't do that. They'll just keep bouncing and bouncing and bouncing. Email services do not like when you have a large bounce list. So again, it's really, really important to get your emails out on a regular, consistent basis. Fill them with fabulous content. But it is also really, really important for you to go back and evaluate how well they did, because then the emails that you set up and you send out going forward are going to be even more effective in helping you really impact your ideal target market and help them to be excited and want to buy your products and services. So make sure that you are looking every time you send out an email. Like I said, I usually wait about a week, and then I look at your open rates, look at your click rates, look at your unsubscribes, look at your bounces, and go ahead and look at those numbers for the people who did open and did click. Look at those really high numbers and maybe think about offering them something special or reaching out to them individually. So I promised you that I would tell you a little bit about one of my clients who, after checking one particular stat, completely changed her business. She happened to be a realtor client of ours. And so we were sending out an email newsletter on a regular basis. It was every week, I think. It was every week. And she would put a link to her current listings. And what we were doing is we were giving her a report on who was clicking on those links. And so she was contacting them. She was following up with them. So she would, if she knew who they were, she would give them a call and just say, hey, I'm just checking in to see how everything's going. How is the family? Because a lot of her clients were families and were repeat business. She worked with a lot of generations of families. Or if they weren't somebody that she already knew, she would send them an email and just say, oh, I'm just following up. I've had a new listing and I wanted to just check with some people on my list to see if anyone was interested. I'm holding an open house this weekend. Feel free to send an email. Just reply to this email and let me know if there's anything, if you'd like to schedule an appointment to go and see this property. Well, once she started doing that on a consistent, regular basis, she started selling more properties, because what happened was people were looking at her property who were obviously interested in buying it or buying something like it. So once she started reaching out to them individually, and especially obviously the people that she already knew, they would say, oh, Debbie, wow, I was just thinking about you, and oh yes, I just love this property. So I'd love to talk to you. It's funny that you called. It was definitely something that was on my mind. And they may not even remember that they opened your email and that they clicked on that listing, but they will know that it was rattling around in their mind. The point of the story is, by checking your numbers consistently after you send out your emails, and by checking to see who's clicking on the links and looking at what they're clicking on, and following up with them, you can use that information and you can, like our client did, possibly change the dynamic and change the landscape of your business completely. So don't discount the information that you can gather from statistics and from following up with people and from just looking at how well your emails are being received.
We truly believe in the power of email marketing, and we've seen it drive incredible revenue for our clients. So we put together a guide for you. It's called Master Email Marketing to Triple Your Income, and you'll find a link to it in the description below. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and go ahead and comment below and let us know so we know to make more videos just like this. We are truly grateful to have you here, and we're excited to be part of your entrepreneurial journey. We look forward to seeing you in our next video, and until then, dream big.